Well, good morning, everyone out there in Viewerland. I can't really understand. I can't explain what's going on here, so I'm just gonna have to get into it, right? So, some of you all know what's been going on with me over the last few years. Some of you won't. But on the the 1st of March? Yeah. So on the 1st of March this year, I emailed every single member of Parliament in the UK over what was going on. That includes Keir Starmer. That includes the Secretary of State, Yvette Cooper. It includes the Chancellor. It includes every Tory, every Lib Dem, every Green, every single member of Parliament in that room got the email. Like 550 of them. It was basically the same thing that Sir Keir Starmer got 8 months ago and hasn't replied to. It was the same thing that I wrote a letter to Richie Sunak about and Suella Braverman because she was Secretary of State or in charge of the police, whatever. And they took 6 months to reply and they sent me a pamphlet for domestic abuse victims. Now, bearing in mind, I'm not trying to deal with the fact I suffered from domestic abuse. I'm trying to deal with the fact the police wrongly charged me of the crime I was the victim of. Okay? I'll say that again, just in case you think you misheard. You didn't. I am trying to resolve the fact the police charged me with the crime I was the victim of. I have now handed that evidence in to prove I was the victim of this crime about 4 months ago, 3 months ago, something. No. I got sick of all these politicians and all these police officers and the police not doing their fucking jobs. So I went and got the evidence, which they should have done in the first place, 10 years ago, to prove I was not guilty of this crime, but actually I was the victim of the crime they charged me with. They essentially took me away from my newborn baby, my daughter, for 4 months because they didn't do their jobs properly. Because they fucked up. So I was forced to plead guilty just to get back to my daughter because I cared more about my daughter than my innocent, clean criminal record. That is my only, and still to this day, the only arrest of my life. I have never been arrested any other time, not before or after. Right? I was the victim of a crime, a violent crime, and the police charged me with the crime I was the victim of when I wasn't even I shouted at the person who had violently assaulted me and got charged for a violent crime. It's beyond belief. And the reason is because I have a penis and the other person had a vagina. Now, the thing is here, I'm going to go through what's gone on. I'm going to tell you all and I'm going to put it online because I am sick to death of these politicians and police not doing their job. I'm sick of it. I am literally sick to the back fucking teeth of these absolute wankers. Okay? So, let's go through this shit. Now, I wrote a letter to Sunak, as I said, maybe about a year and a half ago, something like that. 18 months ago, 20 months ago. It took him and the Secretary of State 6 months to respond. And their response was, they sent me a pamphlet for domestic abuse victims. Okay? I'm not trying to get help for domestic abuse. I'm trying to get your wrongful charge and 10 years of torture, you bellends, resolved. You owe me compensation. Right? That's what it is. You owe me compensation. You've tortured me for 10 years because you've ruined my fucking life, because you've charged me with a crime I was the victim of. You put my daughter in danger. You put me in danger. I could have been killed. I was driven insane. You want to fucking pay me my money or this will never end. It's as simple as that, right? It's as simple as that. I've tried to be nice about it for 10 years, so I'm no longer being nice about it. I'm done being nice about this. I'm done. Okay? So what I did was, I wrote a letter to, every member of Parliament, every single member of Parliament, and the reason being, because if they fail to act and do anything about it, then it will show evidence of negligence in a public office. They will have acted in a manner in which they were known was likely to cause harm or emotional mental harm to an individual. They all know by ignoring this, it's going to cause me trouble and pain and harm and suffering, and they've still chose to do it. Apart from those who's replied, there was about 3 MPs who did reply out of 600. Okay? So everyone who didn't reply, you're fucked. You're guilty of negligence in a public office. Every last one of you. You're guilty of negligence in a public office. Okay? Now, there are other people who are guilty of negligence in a public office. The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and Suella Braverman. Not to mention the head of Gateshead Police, the head of Forth Banks Police Station in Newcastle, and the head of Northumberland Police in general, not just Gateshead Police Station, okay? These are all guilty of negligence in a public office, including my own local MP, whoever the fuck you are, because it changes so often. It's not Ian Mears anymore. So I'll show you what I emailed the MPs on the 1st, right? So this is what I emailed on the 1st. Shit. So I sent this to every single MP in the country. Every single MP in Britain, basically. And I says, my name is Mr. James William Pope, and I am writing this email to every single serving MP regarding a subject of the utmost importance to me, the matter of violence against boys and men. We currently have a serving minister in the role to solve the issue of violence against women and girls. However, we do not, as far as I'm aware, have never had someone who can represent me, a victim of domestic abuse, a victim of domestic abuse and violence. It's supposed to be and violence, but Grammarly probably fucked me over there. Someone who is male. Both as a child and as an adult, I have not had help regarding these things. I should have never experienced and certainly would not have if I were female. It's true. I have not had any voice in government, no voice in society, and my parents were part of the problem, despite being good, hard-working people the vast majority of the time. Now, not only was I subject to violent abuse as a child, merely for the crime of having 2 oldest twin siblings, who found it amusing to trick me into doing things so I would get assaulted by my parents as a result, while they sat and laughed about it. But then, as a grown man 2 weeks after the birth of my first child, I was the victim of a domestic assault. I've already told you about this. Now, if you just want to know the domestic assault, what happened, right? I'll go through it just quickly on camera here because it's quite easy. It's quite simple, right? So, the mother of my child and me were arguing about money 2 weeks after our newborn was born. Typical, really. I was in a lot of pain from my sciatic nerve injury. You know, I was being a bit of a prick. Fine. But I didn't deserve to be violently assaulted, okay? Verbal dickheadery doesn't really warrant a violent assault. But, in fairness, this is what happened. So imagine this table here is my and the mother's bed, okay? So, basically, we're having this argument about the money, and the mother has pushed me in the chest, trying to push me onto the bed, okay, behind me, here, like this, okay? But, because of my sciatic nerve damage on my side here, and my inability to actually have stability and walk properly, my right leg caught the back here of the bed. So instead of flying backwards like this, whoops, onto the bed, sorry Zara, I stumbled that way, so I've gone bosh, and then fell that way, and went flying through some wardrobe. I literally went flying through a wardrobe and broke our wardrobe from falling through it. I was pushed through a fucking wardrobe by a woman, and because I'm a man, and I shouted at her for it, I got charged. Didn't strike her, didn't pull her hair, didn't hurt her in any way, shape or form. Right? Although she tried to make out things happen that didn't happen, you know, later redacted, but the damage was done. The damage was done. 10 years of my life, fucked, taken away from my newborn baby, because I was assaulted. Why? Because I have a penis. That is why. So, I actually don't hold the mother of my child responsible for this. You know, it's not the first time I've been pushed, and she wasn't trying to hurt me, otherwise she wouldn't have tried to push me onto a soft bed. But nonetheless, I blame the police. They failed in their job. They have charged an innocent man of the crime he was the victim of, and they have allowed him to be tortured mentally, emotionally, and essentially physically for 10 years. And then when the evidence was handed in to prove to them that they wrongly convicted an innocent man, they were like, nothing we can do. That was literally their response. Nothing we can do. You pleaded guilty. I was emotionally blackmailed with my newborn baby into being forced to pleading guilty. I was never guilty. I pleaded my innocence from day one and for 4 months, up until the point where I was told if I pleaded guilty, I would be allowed to go home to my baby straight away. And I was like, no brainer then. I'll go home to my daughter. You think I care about some wrongful charge? I'll deal with these cunts later. And that's what I'm doing. I'm dealing with you cunts now. Simple as. So, as a result of the domestic abuse, I ended up being wrongly charged with common assault for shouting at the person who assaulted me. I ended up being forced to plead guilty to the crime I was actually the victim of 4 months later after being on strict bail conditions. Yeah, I was a crippled man living in a drug den, being forced on bail in a drug den, essentially, on a sofa. So I was in far more pain than I should be normally. Far more pain, because the sofa was a two-seater and I'm 6'5". I couldn't even walk and stand, but they put me on a sofa for 4 months. What the Northumberland police did to me is nothing short of torture. Nothing short. Nothing short. It's a crime. It's a fucking crime. Okay? Wrongfully charging someone is a crime. Despite my extensive and full-hearted efforts for 10 years, this has not been resolved in any capacity. I was driven medically insane over the matter, and the police were set out to assault me under the Mental Health Act. They did as well. The police assaulted me under the Mental Health Act and gave me lifelong injuries. My neck's fucked. Everything. My shoulder's fucked. My neck's fucked. I never got any help for that. They owe me compensation. You can't give someone lifelong injuries when they haven't committed a crime as the police and nothing be done. You have to pay compensation. If you go out there and injure an innocent member of the public in your line of duty who's not guilty of any crime and it's not reasonable force, you have to pay. You have to pay. You pay me my fucking money. That's what you do, Northumberland Police. You pay me my fucking money because I wasn't guilty of any crime. That was a mental health dispute. And you're allowed to use reasonable force. You can't claim giving innocent members of the public lifelong injuries is reasonable force. There was no threat to life. There was no threat to my life. None. None. So what justification did the police have for giving me several lifelong injuries? None. They took the piss because they could get away with it. And they're not going to get away with it. You're going to pay me my fucking money. Right? Next one. It wasn't even just one time. They did it at Sunderland Road, where they fucked my neck because they gave me whiplash because the police officer was too weak to throw me to the floor. Fucking pussy. Shouldn't have even been laying his hands on me. And then they did it here, in this room, this very room. They pulled my shoulder out of its socket, just over there. There was 12 police officers in this fucking room because I refused to be held under the Mental Health Act because I wasn't mentally unwell. It's just because these cunts were doing this to me. I literally had been forced to be mentally unwell by these cunts. You can only crack an egg so many times before it'll break. And they cracked me and cracked me and cracked me and cracked me and cracked me. And eventually I broke. But only because the law allowed them to do these things to me. The law allowed the police to wrongfully charge me. The law allowed the police to ignore the fact they were charging an innocent man and then violently assaulting an innocent member of the public and giving them lifelong injuries. Not to mention the fact, when I wrote my first complaint about this, they upheld it. So they didn't give me enough food, they didn't give me enough water while I was wrongfully detained at Forthbanks, and they denied me legal representation. They upheld the 2 counts of not enough food and not enough water, but denied not giving me legal representation. They did deny giving me legal representation. They didn't give me a fucking solicitor when I asked. That is denying legal representation. Simple as. The reason they didn't, because it was 15 minutes before 24 hours. So they didn't have time to give me one. So they denied me one. It's as simple as that. But they denied that aspect and upheld the other 2. So They admitted to abusing my human rights. If you don't give your prisoner enough food and water, that is an abuse of human rights. So they have admitted breaking my human rights. They have admitted breaching the human rights of a UK citizen who was wrongfully detained in their care for some reason, because they can't do their fucking jobs properly, and then denied it was human rights abuse. Like, check the human rights charter, lads. It is fucking human rights abuse, and you admitted to it. Simple. And then you tricked me into treating it as a neighbourhood resolution complaint to sign it off when I wasn't mentally well enough to understand what you were doing, instead of putting it on the national statistics of human rights abuse. So you tricked me into helping you cover up your crime. It's a fucking joke what the police have done to me. It's a fucking joke. So, here we go. So they gave me lifelong injuries using excessive force, including a minor disfigurement, which they did, right here. They forced my arm, during my first mental health detainment when they injured my neck, through the handcuffs of the through the handcuff locking mechanism. Like, because they were so weak and they couldn't actually put my hands in the cuffs, they forced my skin through the handcuff locking mechanism and disfigured me. I don't think you can see, because it's only minor. It's a minor disfigurement. But I walk around with this like night tick on my arm. Like, I walk around with a disfigurement from them. It's only minor, but it's a disfigurement nonetheless. And they fucked my neck, and they fucked my back, and they fucked my shoulder, all because they can't do their fucking jobs properly. Now, this would all be well and good, but I was literally learning to walk again. I was a crippled man. I was already injured, and they gave me more injuries to deal with. My nerve injury is now healed, and I'm left with the injuries those fuckers caused me. Like, this isn't right. This is not fucking right. So I mentioned here, on the very first detainment, I got whiplashed, thrown at the floor because he was too weak to do it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm left with injuries and disfigurements as the result of the police's negligence. Nothing has ever been done. Like, how can I be given lifelong injuries for someone not guilty of any crime, only suffering a mental disability? And how can it be deemed reasonable force when there is no risk to life or potential risk to life? Yet here I am, even right in pain. I'm in pain right now. My shoulder's fucking knacking. It knacks every day. I've never lived a moment without pain in about fucking 14 years. And these twats haven't helped. I was treated like an animal. I was literally treated like a criminal when I wasn't even guilty of a crime or suspected of a crime. Like, so I wrote to the Queen about this, actually, before she passed away. While I was held under the Mental Health Act, granted, not the best idea. I wasn't mentally unwell at the time. I was mentally unwell because they had made me mentally unwell. Like, the police made me mentally unwell, so then the government sends the police out to assault me. So then I end up being more mentally unwell than what I was if they just fucking left me alone. Like, doilums. I already had post-traumatic stress disorder from the police, so what did they do? Well, send the police out to physically assault him. That'll help his mental health. You fucking morons. You took years of my life because of that. Years. Because you didn't think about men and our problems. It's always about girls and boys. Men don't have problems. Anyway, I'm not going to go through this all email because I'm getting really pissed off. This is really emotional. The Home Office has replied to me. Rishi Sunak hasn't replied. It took 8 months. Starmer hasn't replied. We're talking 9 months later. But here, we have the reply from the Home Office. The reply from the Home Office. Boom. Yesterday. Now, you want to know the funny thing about this is, they've tried to ignore me. But over the last few weeks, I've started being very vocal about it. On Facebook and on Twitter. I waited until I got my blue tick on Twitter. And then, because no journalists in this country have been doing their fucking jobs and picking up this story, even though I sent it to you, because I've got the proof I sent it to you, and you didn't do your fucking job, I decided I will release the story. I'm not waiting on you lots for you lots to do your job anymore. I'm going to make you do your job. With public awareness. Alright? That's how you do it. I don't need to wait for a journalist to write the story. I'll write the story. I'll pay for the advertising, and you'll all fucking see it. You should have done your jobs, okay? So here is the reply. So as you can see, it's from the Home Office. You know, it's official. This is not some made up shit. Home Office. So, dear Mr. Pope, thank you for your email on the 1st of March. Yeah, what about the fucking rest of them? Your correspondence has been passed to our unit for a response. Damn right it should be. Do you know why it was passed to them for a response? Do you know why? It's been passed to their unit for a response because since I got that blue tick on Twitter and I've released a story, I can now hammer these MPs personally for it. I can hammer them for not doing their job on their Twitter accounts in front of the rest of the country, and they don't fucking like it. So they've made someone reply to me. They didn't give a fuck about it when they got it. They didn't give a fuck about it when it happened. They only care now because they're being made to look bad. And I will continue to make you twats look bad because of what's been done to me. You need to sort it out. So, bearing in mind, I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister and the MPs, right? I didn't tell you, but part of it was there's a minister for reduction in violence against girls and women, which is great. Fantastic. We don't want women and girls to suffer violence. But we do not have a minister to deal with reduction in violence against men and boys. And I was writing about this to the MPs, be like, give me the job. Make me that voice. Make me the voice of men in that room. Because men need a voice in Parliament. We don't have it. We do not have it. All them men in that room are fucking... Well, you're traitors to your gender. You're fucking traitors to your gender, right? So, I demanded they make a job for a minister of reduction in violence against boys and men. And I said, give me the job. I'll be that voice. And I will be that voice. No problem. Whether they pay me for it or not, I'll be the fucking voice. So, the reply is, the definition of violence against women and girls encompasses crimes which disproportionately, but not exclusively, affect women and girls. So, what they've said is, the reason that's set up is because we need to deal with things that women deal with, majority women deal with. 90% of violent crime is against men. You're talking thefts, robberies, violent assaults, street fights. 90% of violent crime happens against men. Warfare, police officers, firefight. What planet are these fuckers living on? I know women suffer violence from certain crimes more than men. Totally. Sexual violence specifically. 100%. But men don't report these things because we're not represented. We have no voice. We have no way to deal with this. We have no way to get the help. We have no voice in Parliament. And I want to be that voice. So I demanded the job. The government absolutely recognises that men and boys experience abuse and violent crimes such as stalking, domestic abuse and sexual abuse. And we are committed to ensuring that male victims and survivors get the support they need. No, you're not. No, you're not. Don't fucking lie to me, you Home Office bastards. Don't fucking lie to me. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because if you cared about men and boys in this country, there'd be a minister to reduce violence against men and boys. You just don't care about men and boys in this country. You just don't give a fuck about us. And then they're like, oh, there's charities. Fucking, I don't know what these things are, but I don't need any mental or emotional support, okay, the Home Office. I need you and Northumberland Police and the CPS to do your fucking jobs. And that means when you are provided evidence to prove that you wrongly convicted an innocent man of the crime he is the victim of, you do your jobs and correct it. You don't try and palm him off like this. And if you don't think it's right, you investigate it. You should check. And then you would find out I am fucking right. And you do your jobs. But it shouldn't have taken 10 years and me to get the evidence and hand it in. 10 years ago, the police should have done their jobs and none of this would have ever happened. None of it. Why can't the police do their fucking jobs? They're supposed to enforce the law, but when it comes to them enforcing the law on themselves, they don't. They break the law constantly. They assaulted me. It's JBH or whatever, GBH. Like, I wasn't a victim of a crime. They didn't use reasonable force. It was unreasonable force. It's assault. It's a violent assault. But literally the police are guilty of violently assaulting me. They're criminals. When I see the police in the street, I don't see law enforcement. I see like a drug dealer, like a criminal. I look at the police as criminals. That is the way this country is now to me. I see Northumberland Police as criminals. Because they've committed several crimes against me and got away with it. And they managed to charge me of the crime I was the victim of and violently assault me several times when it made me mentally unwell. They are the criminals here. They might have the badge, they might have the high vig, they might have the power from the government, but they have broken the law. They are the criminals, not me, the police. Who would have thought it? When you put me standing next to 100 police officers, and you have me smoking a big fucking joint, and you'd be like, oh, he's the criminal. No, they are the criminals. Not me, them. Okay? This whole thing has undermined the legitimacy of the British legal system, and it will continue to undermine the legitimacy of the British legal system forevermore until they resolve it. I tried to get this resolved discreetly. I tried to get it done amicably and privately, and none of these twats want to do it. So what I'll do, I'll just be vocal about it to the entire world every day for the rest of my life, and then one day it'll get fixed. It doesn't matter. One day you lot will have to resolve it because it undermines the legitimacy of the British legal system. The fact that you have evidence sitting on your records that you wrongly convicted someone and you just haven't done anything. It doesn't make me look bad. It doesn't make me look bad. You lot are the ones in trouble. Not me. You lot. And you just want to fucking do your jobs. Do your jobs. It's as simple as that. Because if you don't do your jobs, you'll be out of a fucking job. It's as simple as that. So the Home Office has basically sent me this email and advised mental health services. Which is an insult. That's a fucking insult. I don't need mental health services. I haven't got mental and emotional problems because of this abuse. I have got the police abuse as problems. And I've already handed in a complaint. Look, they're like, oh, you should hand in a complaint. I have handed in more complaints to the police you can imagine over the last 10 years of this. Look. See, let's have a look. There'll be a police here. There we go. IOPC reference. Complaint there. Police misconduct. Discrimination, formal complaint. Blah, blah, blah. IOPC review. No. I've got literally complaints out the wazoo going back 10 years. So don't fucking tell me to do something I've already done, Home Office. Do your fucking job. That's it. Correct the record. You know, you need to pardon me or overturn it and then pay me my fucking money, my compensation. It's as simple as that. You don't get to injure me for the rest of my life through police negligence when I wasn't guilty of any crime and there was no danger to life and then blame me for it and tell me I need to fix it. No, you lot need to fix it. And if you don't, I'll just be vocal about it for the rest of my life. And all it'll do is undermine the legal system and the legitimacy of the police forevermore. Even long after I'm dead, this will be undermining the police and the legal system. Because you know you're wrongly convicted an innocent man and you're choosing not to act. Every politician in the country, bar those who replied, are fully aware that a citizen has been wrongly convicted of the crime they are the victim of, and if you didn't do anything, you are guilty of public negligence, and the record will show that. The record will show. I don't give a fuck about your procedures. We can't get involved in other people's constituents. This is bigger than that. I don't give a fuck about your political guidelines. This is right and wrong. This is law and order. The police broke the law. Get them to fix it. I'm done. I'm done being nice to you cunts. Fucking sort it out.